Oh, really?
Anyway, so we're live here with Talking Niagara. So Peter Giblett and Dave Wheeler welcome you to the last Friday the 13th of 2024. This is Talking Niagara, your morning talk show for news impacting Niagara Falls. So ahead, we're going to be talking about council hesitant, Niagara Lake Council hesitant to refund the newly imagined Icewine Festival. School book vending machines have been unveiled. Court challenge against this bike lane removal law, which we knew would happen. All right.
Yeah, and if Chris gets in, we do have a science article that we might be able to get to because this is Friday.
Yeah. All right. The other thing is that, hey, welcome everybody. And what is today? It's Friday the 13th. And I just thought I would do this for everybody. So I don't know that there's going to be any naked bike riders at Port Dover, but here you go. The weather forecast right now is -4, sun expected for today. The real feel of the whole day is -6. So winds westerly 11 kilometers. The UV index is very low at 2 degrees. I don't know that I'm going to be predicting much in the way of naked bike riding.
Naked bike riding?
Yeah, motorbike riding at Port Dover. Oh. Friday the 13th.
I thought you said
this was the Port Dover weather forecast, not Niagara Falls weather forecaster.
Yeah, but I thought you said naked bike riding.
I did say naked bike riding, yes.
Oh, well.
Port Dover's famous for it, isn't it? It's the last chance of 2024 to go naked bike riding.
Well, I was there once at one Friday the 13th, and I happened to be staying in Port Dover because I was working in Nanticoke. So it was in April. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, your Hell's Angels there. You had some pretty rough looking dudes, and you had a lot of people snarling at the police, but the police were really cool. They just walked up and down the street and made sure everybody didn't get out of hand. You know, oh, hi, Chris. I got you a science one. Make sure we'll get it in before we end. Yes, it is brisk. It is a brisk day out there. It was brisk yesterday. I went for a walk. It was windy and cold, and
it was bloody horrible yesterday.
Yeah.
Pardon my English.
Yeah, I went for a good walk, and whoa, I had my winter coat on, but I should have put something under that even as well.
All right, let's get moving into them then, shall we, today, if we're going to get there. So Niagara Lake councillors are hesitant to fund the reimagined Niagara Icewine Festival. Why?
Well, they don't want to put the price sticker on to the taxpayer, basically. Yeah. They don't want the residents to have. So they like the idea of the ice wine. They think they're Ice Wine Festival. They think they're going to get up to 10,000 visitors this year, up about probably 80% from last year, I guess, because it's going to be almost double from what it was last year, because it was 6,000 last year and they expected 10,000, so it's going to be quite a bit more. But I guess in times past, some of the costs went on to the residents through taxes. They don't want that to happen now. It should be a private only.
There's always a public cost to having a public festival like the Icewine Festival, because there's a cost in policing the area and things like that.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to have too many police.
I'm not saying that you need. I'm not. This is not like a massive demonstration in Ottawa, but things do go wrong, and police are there for when things go wrong.
Well, Friday the 13th Ice Festival, I don't know. It wouldn't be that bad. It wouldn't be as much need for police as Friday.
Basically, yeah, I get it. That the city's basically saying, well, we don't want to spend the extra money.
Yes. So basically, yeah, they don't want. Well, as we've been talking over and over and over again, how much budgets are going up and how much the taxpayer has to come up with more and more coin, and it's a constant battle to keep the budgets down. But still, it's a constant battle to keep everything up and running as it should be. With inflation, with the cost of living, and all of those things, it's been harder and harder for our own city in the region to keep up. So naturally, Niagara on the Lake sees, oh no, that we don't want to put another imposition on the taxpayer.
Yeah, but actually, it's an interesting one. Councillor Sandra O'Connor was talking about the municipal accommodation tax, tourism, and how tourism Niagara on the Lake should be ideally suited for this. Well, yeah, this is the sort of thing that could be that municipal accommodation tax money could be spent on.
Yeah, but anyway, the underlying thing of this is Niagara on the Lake welcomes it. They have had a lot of money coming in from, of course, countries to support it, but they've made it very clear that they're not going to pony up any dough.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any comments in relation to that? Yeah. Betty is from St. Catherine's, by the way, Chris. Yeah, she said St. Cat's, right? Yeah, morning. Okay, everybody. Yep. So we can move on from that one to this. This is an interesting one. So school book vending machine is unveiled in a St. Catherine's school. And I'm thinking, well, that's an interesting thing. Is this like a library where you can come get the book you want and return the book?
I suppose so. I suppose it's just kind of another way of getting kids to read.
Yeah.
When you go into a library, there's lots of books. There's a pretty imposing place. But if you were to put some of the highlighted books that kids like to read in a vending machine, so they could see the book title, see the book right there, and they can hit the vending machine and get it right out. So it's a little bit easier for especially the youngest ones to see a book they want to read and then just go over the vending machine and get it. It's a kind of a little kind of, yeah, go ahead.
It's not a bad idea. I love it. I love it as an idea. It's imaginative. It kind of gets the kids going, oh, I want that book. I want to read that book. Yeah,
it says Start To, it's called. Start To Finish. Start to Finish launched the project in 2022 with 4 book vending machines in First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities across Canada, which makes that interesting. It is now expanded to an additional 10 communities nationwide. So so it's kind of cool, and like I said, it has this one's in the St. Nicholas Catholic School, and St. Catherine's Elementary School is home to the book vending machine, offering free Indigenous authored books for students. That's an important part too. So the vending machine is actually looks like it's mostly for Indigenous authored books, which is kind of cool, really.
Yeah. Well, it basically means the only place you can get them is at the vending machine. Yeah. Interesting. And I'm hoping that they are kid-friendly books. Obviously,
they gotta be. Those books are going to be vetted upside down and backwards. Yeah. These are not books authored by adult Indigenous people for other adults. No way.
Yeah. The ones we can see here are Sour Cherries, Hello Star, and Magic Treehouse, right? Just to read the titles. There are other books I can see, but I can't see the titles of said books, right?
Yeah.
But those just the titles alone would be kind of things for kids to read, right?
Yeah, you don't want to know what the Magic Treehouse is if it's an adult written book.
Oh, but this is actually a tiger chasing a bunch of kids.
Uh-oh. I hope they don't become meal.
Yeah. Well, that one that's been checked out.
Yeah, so it's kid-friendly books written by Indigenous authors. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good. You talk about truth and reconciliation. Well, this is part of the reconciliation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It gives a means by which Indigenous authors can get exposure, and the kids can get exposure to Indigenous culture. So, good, win-win.
All right. Anything that gets kids to read is a bonus. Absolutely. Library will also be like the post office, all washed up. Maybe.
I just like to point this out. That we are always complaining about our kids being on their phones and how addictive they are, and a lot of complaints. But I remember the complaints of a couple of generations ago, where people were complaining that somebody was reading too much, and they were stuck reading too much, and they weren't out there doing things with people, and that reading too much made them lazy when they could have been doing other things. Seriously. And once upon a time, I forget which king it was, when one of his advisors came and suggested that as many people learn to read and write as possible, the king was against it because he thought it would make them lazy.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, Dave, one thing I forgot to say because of the number of articles on here this morning, we got a 3-minute limit for each article. Okay.
Okay, let's get out of here then.
Yeah. Okay. So the court, as we knew this was going to happen, there's a court challenge against the Ontario bike lane removal law.
Well, to sum this up in just a minute, actually, is a group has challenged Doug Ford's idea and of tearing up the bike lanes and taking them over and using them for the roads. And the challenge is, of course, also that it's going to cost $48 million, which Doug Ford says, "Are you out of your mind? All it is a matter of widening the roads and using those bike lanes." But there's a lot of
there's a lot of
pushback, and basically that's all it is. It's a group that's going to fight Ford, but Ford's going to win.
Well, I'm gonna say, interesting that what you're saying, Ford's gonna win. I think that it's going to take a while to get rid of these bike lanes because, again, you've got some of these bike lanes that are quite wide sections of road. The one in the picture is probably half the road is only bikes, right?
Well, not only that, but it goes on to talk about somebody that got hit in a bike lane, and they're saying that there should be a barrier up, so the bike lane was not even good enough. There has to be a barrier to protect the riders. So on one side, you can see that it's getting more expensive. If you put a barrier there, it's going to be more likely that somebody hits the barrier. So and if they have bike lanes, they're going to have to be on the secondary roads. They can't be on like Bloor Avenue. It has to be. I would rather like to see them map out bike routes that are not on the main roads.
So would I.
That would be better, through the residential areas and not through the main roads. It might take longer and it might be more serpentine, but it would be safer for the bike riders, and it wouldn't.
Well, actually, they should be straighter roads. And they should offer cut acrosses and bridges and that, if possible.
Well, I'm just looking for a route for them outside of the busy roads.
I know. I get what you're saying. Right. And I agree with that because, but again, cyclists will take the most convenient route to them anyway. Right.
Okay. What else do we got?
So we got 2 comments. It will cost a lot to remove. And you're right, Dave. The bicycle people will step over the overpopulation of the cities first. Oops, too late. And they must double up Drummond and Dorchester lanes. They should use hydro corridors and old train railways for bike lanes. Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
exactly.
Certainly, yeah.
Exactly that kind of thing. So moving on to the next one, Ontario plans tougher encampment laws.
Well, here we go again. We've talked about this many times. It is they're talking about the notwithstanding clause and imposing and removing some of the rights of the encampers, those suffering from homelessness, in order to force them into, kind of force them into recovery areas. This is thought to help rather than hinder the reintroduction of the homeless back into society. However, as Lori Lakoko had pointed out here, that we really never did give the existing people enough the people who deal with this now enough resources. And if you do this notwithstanding clause thing, you're going to have to pour a lot of resources in it. It's going to cost a lot of money. And the results, if you gave that same amount of money to the people who are trying to deal with it now, you would probably have success.
Yeah. So do you think the man making those tunnels was for the homeless? Just asking your opinions. Yeah. Thank you, Betty. Right. And Mike's saying putting the cart before the horse again. And I can't help thinking, but that is true. We've not tried hardly any solutions to housing. And the worst is that where they put those new camps in St. Catharines, those new container type housing in St. Catharines, where they were housing about 40 homeless. Well, I'm sorry, it's 7:17 in the morning. If you're homeless, you're out of there, right? You know?
Yeah, well, something definitely has to be done. Something definitely has to be done. We've been hearing this story from our own councillors over and over and over again. And when they become a few elections ago, everybody had a homeless solution, but none of it was engaged. The people who are now dealing with homeless people have limited resources. With those limited resources, everybody says, well, it's not working. So let's do the notwithstanding clause. If we do that, though, the only way it is going to work if you pour a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
If you had already poured the money into it up until now, we may have been able to make a big dent in those suffering from homelessness and get them places. So basically saying they're going to do this draconian measure of taking away their rights. But when they enact that plan, it's going to cost a lot of money. So why don't you throw out the money now and deal with it with the people who are already experienced with dealing with it?
Exactly. I can see them ending up making encampments on the edges of certain cities. So basically buying 1 or 2 acres off of a farmer, putting in some showers and toilets into an area and saying, here, camp there, right?
Modern day shanty towns. I don't like them. Well, you need to place, we need temporary shelters for those people where they can have showers and be comfortable, and be free of.
I think if we're providing shelters, they need to be able to stay there all day. On a day like today, when it's freezing cold, why would they want to go out? Why should they be forced out of their shelter?
Well, this is the story that's been going on for years already now, and it's just nobody has been able to do that. And people have been saying just what you have been saying for years, and nothing has been done. So no improvements have been made. It's the same thing. Once you get out of the shelter in the wintertime, they go to the bus station. The bus people let them hang around for a little while and warm up, and then they shoo them away. And then they go over to the library and warm up there for a little while, and then they shoo them away and back to the bus shelter. In the meantime, do the drugs and dope that a lot of them do, petty steal. Anyway, is an appalling situation. It shouldn't happen. And I'm afraid we're getting far too used to it, and we're getting harsh attitudes towards them.
And Mike is saying 338 homeless in Niagara Falls as of June, with 68% considered chronic. Niagara Falls is the second largest number of homeless people in the region, behind St. Catharines at 477. I didn't know that we had the numbers as precise as that. You're not counting couch surfers, of course, there. Okay. They need to leave every day like the rest of us to contribute to the city. Well, I agree there, but you don't kick them out at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, Chris. Right? We all get to lie in on a Saturday morning. I know a lot of funding goes out to the programs, but I haven't heard much of helping a lot of what's needed. Sorry, lack of program directors.
Well, I think also
probably too many program directors, Betty. Directors love to talk, but no action.
Well, I like to point out that a lot of these people would like to be engaged in doing something. I am sure of it.
Yes,
I'm sure they are bored most of the time and just looking for places. I'm sure that even they can clean up the parks, they can sweep the roads, they can shovel out driveways or something like that.
Absolutely,
they could be a pool of workers. And they could pay their way basically just by doing that, by engaging in jobs that other people haven't been able to do. I don't know. You're going to have to take some creative people. What you want to do is engaged, like idle hands are the devil's workshop or something like that. They used to say, well, if you got a lot of people just trying to keep warm during the wintertime and they've got nothing to do, that's not a good ground for fertile sort of rehabilitation. It just gets you in more and more trouble. It leads you to escape your life, to get into more drugs or alcohol, because that's a good quick escape from the life that you're in. Anyway, I'm not so sure that draconian measures I think the draconian measures they're talking about taking away people's rights, and I suppose draconian is a little bit harsh of a word, but by taking away people's rights and forcing them into rehabilitation will cost a lot more than if you gave that money to people who are already doing it, that are professionals now.
I think so. And Chris makes a fair point. Before the last 50 years, everybody got up on a Saturday at 7 a.m. to contribute. True.
Yeah.
It is true.
Everybody pulled their weight. Another thing too is we have to worry about the addiction of our electronic addictions too, because not only are there drug and other addictions, there's electronic addictions which complicate things, which add to the sort of means by which homeless people amuse themselves or escape their situations, which probably lulls them into sort of an unambitious sort of situation. I don't know. There's many things that can be done. We just need people with imaginations to come up with them, because we certainly need to fix this. I am appalled and super embarrassed that my society, Ontario, has homeless people in it. It's just a humiliation to me.
Well, Betty says it's a touchy situation. It shouldn't be. Absolutely. And Peter Biker is saying the number of homeless seem to be matching the ever-increasing size and reach of government. So should we do like other people, take them to an island and let them live off the land? That's what I'm hearing. No, not sure. I don't think I like that.
Well, I remember in the year when gay people first started coming out in big numbers, and they began to sort of start acceptance. A lot of people still resisted them and didn't like them, thought they were a bad influence on society all in all. So I remember that. Why don't we just all put them on an island they won't be able to procreate, so they'll just die off.
Yeah, sure.
We don't have to treat them cruelly. We just have to isolate them on an island and let them just sort of not procreate and all that. So I don't know, but that I remember that.
I think
somebody actually thought that was a good solution.
Yeah, and tyranny against the minority is what Chris Simone is saying. Okay, so let's move on. Ontario pledges more funding for seniors needing dementia care. Okay, one last comment: education fix drinking and driving. Perhaps educating greedy adults will fix homelessness. Interesting thought. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it didn't completely fix drinking and driving, but it did make it did make a lot of us aware.
It made it socially unacceptable.
Yes, but it also made a lot of us unaware. Before the drinking and driving thing came up, it used to be that if you had a few drinks, you were okay. The more mature you were, the better it was. I remember my father told me I better not drink and drive. And I says, well, Dad, I've seen you had a couple of beers and drive. Yeah, well, I'm over 35, which meant to him, I thought, well, I'm able to, a mature man can take it. Those ideas have waned, of course. So, but we still find it happening, drinking and driving. And now how many people are stoned out there driving?
Yeah.
I tell you, the ones that have been smoking marijuana are the ones that are going, are going 50 and 100.
All right.
Both hands on the steering wheel.
Okay. So Ontario's pledging more care for senior citizens, dementia care for senior citizens, and the supports for assisting families and caregivers by creating more opportunities for seniors to build stronger social connections within their community.
Yes. Anyway,
the province plans to spend 114 million through a program called Support for Seniors and Caregivers. Sorry, the Support for Seniors and Caregivers Act of 2024. It's got to be one of the last acts the province is enacting.
Well, I don't know. This is just basically an announcement that says, the government's going to shell out more money for older folks suffering dementia. That, of course, we have to do. And people who have dementia quite often need a lot of care. I remember doing the election I was in one of the senior retirement homes, and I was a poll clerk in the election, and the old folk came to vote, but some of them came 2 or 3 times and forgot they'd come and voted.
Damn, they should have been let to vote 3 or 4 times, Yeah. Maybe
one lady was 100 years old. Well, I'm coming to vote, but I really don't feel comfortable about it because I haven't been following the different politicians. So I'll pick one with the name I like the most.
Yeah, and so she comes in at 8 o'clock in the morning to vote, and she votes for John Smith, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon she comes and votes for Mary Wilson, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon she comes and votes for Barry Jones. Oh, and then at 6 o'clock she comes and votes for Abdul. I like it.
Yeah. So basically, that's good news. I don't know if it's enough, though. I don't know if it's. Of course, we're always going to hear it's not enough. Thank you for that, but we need more. We're always going to get that comment.
Yeah, there's always we know there's a dementia lobby out there by organizations that are assisting those that need dementia care. And, there's been a lot written over it in the last few years that I have seen from time to time. And I think that this will be popular by some organizations like that.
Well, when you said a dementia lobby, all I could think of at first was a lobby made up of dementia people.
Fair.
Anyway,
but it's been bundled in with long-term care issues as well. That's all been part and parcel of it. All right.
Yeah, unfortunately, dementia is a terrible thing for a lot of people because they see the sort of the person they knew change and become something else, and quite often the people with dementia know there's something wrong with them, which makes them inherently unhappy. So anyway, anything to help that out, but I would like to see a lot of more research into how to limit the amount of people that do eventually succumb to dementia.
Yeah. Okay. So next up, we'll do a little bit of science, right? Change of pace. Humans may not have survived without Neanderthals. Take it, Dave.
Yes, this is a fascinating article. So what they've found out is that the Homo sapiens that came out of Africa many years ago, thousands of years ago, those and a lot of Homo sapiens came out at different times out of Africa, but they went extinct in Europe a couple of times. But those humans, Homo sapiens, that had mated with Neanderthals were the ones that survived. So if you want to see it like this, there's Africa, and Homo sapiens come out of Africa where there are Neanderthals and Denisovans. So the humans, Homo sapiens that come out of Africa go extinct a few times. When they come into Europe, they can't make it, but Neanderthals are living there. So one group comes out and they mate with the Neanderthals. They mate with those Neanderthals and now carry the Neanderthal gene with them and leave Europe. And suddenly those Neanderthals and humans in Europe go extinct because there's a massive weather and all kinds of other things about 40,000 years ago. And then those Homo sapiens that had mated with the Neanderthals come back into Europe, and they then survive. So the idea is that Homo sapiens outside of Africa may not have survived at all if not for having mated with the Neanderthals, which gave them protection against diseases and other problems that they did not have immunities towards. So the picture is much more different than we used to think. We used to think that Homo sapiens came into Europe and beat them and beat back the Neanderthals and killed them off and took their land. That's not the case. So the people came out of Africa, Homo sapiens, went into Europe, mated and coexisted with the Neanderthals, and then left, and a lot of them left. And all the humans and all the Neanderthals went extinct in Europe, but not the ones that had left Europe. And so those Homo sapiens that had interbred with Neanderthals then came back into Europe, and they're the ones that survived. But humans who had not interbred with Neanderthals did not survive.
Yeah, and you're saying Europe, but it's not just Europe. It's anywhere that was north, that was actually in the areas where the Ice Age happened, right?
Well, they're talking about in and around where the Neanderthals did exist. And at different times. Now, Neanderthals had a huge presence in Europe, and their cousins, the Denisovans, had more of a presence east of that area.
Yeah.
So they pretty much are talking about Neanderthal DNA and not Denisovan, which most of it would have been transferred to the Homo sapiens
from the
European populations.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the era in which you're talking about, they essentially where there was mixing, that mixing ensured the continuance of humanity in those areas, but they were beaten back. Essentially, if they stayed, they were destroyed essentially by the Ice Age. But they left, they were beaten back.
No. Basically something happened in Europe. So try to imagine this again. So successive waves of Homo sapiens come into Europe and they die off. Those waves of Homo sapiens that came into Europe and mated with the Neanderthals, and many of those left. So those, once they had mated with the Neanderthals, many of those populations continued to move on to somewhere else. Just about all hominids became extinct in Europe, including all the humans. But what had happened before this, the Homo sapiens that had not mated with the Neanderthals had all died off. So something about Homo sapiens didn't have enough enough genetic resistance to live in Europe. They would die off. But the ones that mated with the Neanderthals did live. Now, something happened in Europe, and just about every hominid died off. But those groups of Homo sapiens that had already mated with Neanderthals in Europe had moved off somewhere. Those their relatives. When Europeans all died off and the weather or whatever happened changed, those groups moved back in to Europe and survived. But Homo sapiens who had not, in the early days, Homo sapiens that came into Europe could not survive, and they died off.
I knew what you had said. What I was just trying to say was, it was, but for that event which forced them back out of Europe, or they either whatever the event was, that probably saved humanity overall.
Yes, indeed. Homo sapiens who had not mated with, did not carry Neanderthal genetics, died off, and they died off more than once. So what was the essential ingredient was Neanderthal DNA. It's the whole story has changed. The story that we have known before, as it goes, there was these Neanderthals, and we had some similarities with them, but we didn't mate with them. And then and everybody says, well, it's very unlikely we mated with them. Well, it turns out that we did mate with them. They were close enough to us that we could mate to them, and that addition of that DNA made it possible for us to live outside Africa. We don't find Neanderthal DNA in the African populations, but it was essential to survive in those early days. It was essential for those European populations to have that Neanderthal DNA, or they would not have survived coming out of Africa.
All right. Interesting. Yep. Okay. So moving on, beware of taxi scams. There's an incident of a St. Catherine's woman who came out of wherever she was, noticed a four-door sedan with a blue light on the roof, and believed it was a taxi cab. She got in it and then was scammed. Right, she handed over a debit card, who was, and inserted it into a payment machine, entered the PIN, etc. And of course, what was that? That was a fake debit machine.
Yeah, number one, the cab. This lady said she was $10 short. She couldn't pay the cabbie off, and the cabbie would not accept cash. That's your first warning. Who doesn't take cash?
Cabs always accept cash. Always, always, always. In fact, most cab drivers would probably prefer cash. They live in the cash culture, right? Because if they get cash, it means they take home today's pay,
Yes. So they have, well, anyway.
You pay a cabbie by credit card He's got to wait 3 days to get that money.
Yeah. So there's that. So the lady's bank card, and they had to use their bank card, which meant they had access now to her bank account. Now just don't do that. What they do, but you know what? Con artists and that can scan a crowd and read people and could see the soft-hearted and the kind-hearted. And they probably, in this particular case, they're speaking of the young woman who came out of the cab and was pleading with others to help her pay her bill. Probably could see which mark to take. They'd be probably a kindly middle-aged lady. Probably was asked, "Oh, can I use your bank card just to get $10?" And the lady was, "Oh, of course she was, because she's kind-hearted." And but they know how to look for.
I think the standard answer to this one is no way. PISSOFF.
Yes. Well, but you know what? If somebody looked at you, they wouldn't probably use you as a mark. You know,
I have been approached.
Karen Fraser just came up on says good morning. So you can imagine a scammer looking at Karen and says, "Well, there's a kindly looking lady. Let's see you try her out." Now, Karen's probably is too savvy for that, but that's the type of person they're looking for.
You said they probably wouldn't go for me. I have been approached, and I told them where to go.
Oh, well. In that case, it wasn't, there was a kindly man over there. It was like, that guy looks dumb enough.
Ooh. Ooh. You're in trouble, man. All right.
I don't worry. Okay, I've been approached too, so I'll chime in on that. I must look dumb too, but yeah, they look for people who they think are kind and they know how to scan a crowd, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's true with any scammer, whether it's a taxi or something else. You know, anybody can buy a light and put it on the roof of their car, right? Yeah. These things are easily purchased. You know, don't be conned. Be careful. Be aware. Check that it really is a taxi, because in the Niagara region, a taxi will actually have a yellow plate on the back bumper somewhere that'll give a taxi number, and they start TOA.
Well, basically, yeah, you could go around and investigate the cab or whatever if you want, but basically, what we want to tell everybody here is just don't do it. Never give anyone your bank card. Never give anyone a bank. Even, I know the con artists are really good and they know how to get to get to you. They're going to look real. And the big thing here is just don't do it. Yeah. And if you walk away feeling bad, that's better than walking away with an empty bank account.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Go away feeling bad, not with an empty bank account. Yeah, absolutely. All right. And it's always this time of year then when we get them. Okay, moving on. Pattison, you know, the signboard company has banned pro-life billboards because they say it creates too much controversy.
Yeah, this is very unfortunate. Now you can think one way or another about pro-life.
We're not advocating one view or the other in that regard. Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
No, but I find it very, very discouraging that somebody that puts up a billboard that's not violent, it's just an opinion. It's like, this is a pro-life billboard, and it's trying to encourage people to think of unborn babies as more like humans.
Yeah.
And that is their opinion. And unfortunately, they've had a lot of harsh backlash when the company does put that up on their billboard. So they got a lot of very harsh harshness coming from feminists of all things.
I've seen this ad in question because the question is a pregnant woman cradling her belly, and the captions reading "Celebrate the gift of life." I've seen the ad. I've certainly seen the ad. You know, I'll leave it there. I'm not going to comment upon the ad. I do believe it's their right to put that up. If you oppose the view, put your own ad up. Dave?
I left.
Yeah, I was just saying I've seen the particular ad, but if you want to oppose it, put your own ad up.
Well, it's not that. It's the backlash that people are getting, and the kind of threats and the anger and the rage that's coming back on the sign company for allowing somebody to express their opinions. And there's nothing bad or offensive to me of a pro-life poster or a pro-choice poster. That's just something that someone has as their attitude towards. So the backlash, like, these people cannot express what is to many people a very positive thing, to value life and to put life above the convenience of abortion or something like that, whatever we want. But it's basically not telling you you're a sinner or you're a bad person or anything like that. It just is trying to encourage you to value life, particularly the life of the unborn. Now, you could take that any way you want. You can do anything you want with that. But to me, I think that's a lovely message. But if there was a pro-choice one right beside it, I could understand that view too. So the backlash is the thing that I really dislike about this. This is a harmless poster. It is not imposing any sort of will on anyone else. It is a poster celebrating, showing that human life is really very important and is a gift in their opinion. So why the backlash? It just makes me furious that people cannot accept the view of another.
Absolutely. And whatever you feel about it, if you've got your own view and you don't like the pro-life group billboard, put your own up.
Well, what is there not to like? That's my opinion here. Like, it is still a woman's choice. It's still a woman's choice to do whatever she wants to do. This billboard is not advocating someone to come and grab and put her in shackles until she has a kid. No, there's nothing like that.
No, I know.
There's nothing offensive about it.
I'm just saying, if you have your own view, put your own poster up. Don't go complaining to the advertising company.
Well, yeah, and this is how censorship begins. There is no law that stops them from putting the poster up there, but knuckle draggers are threatening and throwing such a backlash at those people who own the sign companies, that they self-censor. They self-censor the view of our citizens, and I feel that is a terrible thing.
It is, and they shouldn't.
So some people who in their opinion don't like it are imposing their will on us, not the people that put the poster up. They're giving you the choice to look at it and ponder it, but the people who are forcing the censorship of that are people that are putting pressure on the sign company, who sees a problem with their bottom line. Because they are now sort of being controversial. So that's That's the censorship within, and I don't like it one bit.
Yeah, but that said, remember, if you're a book company, or or you're a newspaper or something, you can publish what the hell you want. It's your choice as to what you publish. That is a fact of life, right? So,
but if you get a backlash of what an article you put on, you take it off the air. And we've seen that. We've seen this with reports from out of Gaza and stuff, where a reporter was there and reported the truth, and they put a video or something on the news, and it gets so much backlash that they take it off and they re-edit it to the point where you don't really get the real view of what really happened.
Well, this is where Karen is saying some billboard images are too graphic, and Peter's Biker's saying it's a free market, not quite so much. And just wanted to add here, Peter, you had a lady on the other day for homelessness, seen a team of ladies trying to give away sweaters and blankets on FB. I didn't have the link. Sorry, I don't remember the one, but okay. Whole abortion thing will be resolved soon. Science is figuring out how to ask the baby for their choice. Chris, love it. Truth is, the young ladies don't want to do the job of mothership. It's hard work, and they aren't built to the old way to carry 15 children. Yeah. And then Martin Van Ooyen said agreed about the billboard. Yeah.
Young women are discouraged from having children in every way these days, unfortunately, and they're thought that if they're going to be a mother, they're just going to be some frumpy old woman now, and and I don't want to have a kid. I don't have. Well, Jesus, you're a woman, and one of the things that women do become mothers, and men become fathers, but I can't really see anything more important in this life than being a mother
or a father. Yeah,
or a father, but particularly a mother, because they're the ones that carry the child, and the child is the mother is the center of the universe for a child for the first 5 years.
But and hey, real men know that they get bitched at for not being in for not taking enough care of the children.
Oh, I did that a lot. I did the potty training. I did.
Oh no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much of that stuff you do, and I did that as well. You'll get bitched at because you weren't there, because you didn't wake up at 2:30 in the morning. You were still going soaring of the logs to the universe, right? Yeah. And she got up at 2:00 in the morning.
Well, that's the best part of my life, is being a father of 3 boys. That was the best part of my life.
Yeah. Okay, so you're right. They get to make the child today. Yeah. Okay. Change society is all Betty was saying. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. The engineers who were charged in the condo collapse will be returning to court in February.
Yeah, they've been charged.
Yeah.
They've but we knew that they were going to be charged because we had another article previously about that.
Yeah.
But they've been charged, and it's a good thing they have been charged. But I think actually didn't these are non-criminal offenses, though, and they may have put workers' lives at risk here, and actually they did. So I can't understand why these are not criminal offenses, because the potential for disaster here was quite a bit. I mean, you had death and injury, and one that might even be worse than death is a long-term injury, like paraplegic or quadriplegic or other kinds of things that could happen. I've seen men who have been hurt on, and I myself have been hurt on the job. You don't need What you don't need is bad engineering. There's enough things out there that are going to hurt you on a construction site. You don't need bad engineering. So I don't know.
Well, essentially, Section 31(2) of the Occupation Health and Safety Act, which is what they're being charged under, states that architects and engineers are in violation of the Act if they provide advice or certification that endangers a worker through negligence or incompetence.
Yeah. So we'll see how that comes up, but it sure has been taking a long time. And the guys changed their legal representation too, which was another thing that delayed them. It seems to me that the longer you delay something, the softer the view is going to be on you.
That's always the case when you're dealing with things like criminal charges. If the criminal charges had occurred and all been done and dusted, the trial was all done last year, they'd be guilty of sin and fined millions of dollars. When we get to 2025, everybody's forgotten it, so they'll get a few $1,000s.
Yeah, I suppose that's part of the strategy, and that's part of the problem with our legal system. Number one, you're going to get much more justice the more money you have to buy the more expensive lawyers. And the other one is the long and tedious means by which law is pronounced, basically. It seems to take forever to get. I'm serious. Like, I went to the court and they got guys in the holding cells and they bring them up. And what they say is, oh, we have to defer this. I'm a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. I have to defer this one. And the same lawyer is deferring one after the other. Nothing's getting done, right? Yeah. The judge says, I need an excuse not to do this right now. And the judge says, okay, and so on and so forth. But our legal system is 18th century circumconfusion, basically. It just takes forever.
Well, and Randy points out, first the engineers have to be found guilty of a wrongdoing according to the Act, and then they can be, they can be fined, etc. Yes, absolutely. That's the way.
But I still bothered by the fact that I don't know if I even read that right, that it's not a criminal offense, so they can be fined, not jailed.
No, it's a criminal. It says, as I said, the item says are in violation of the Act, so they can be charged.
Well, they can be charged, but can they be jailed? And what is the result?
Probably not jailed. No, it will be a fine.
Yes. Well, they just put people's, like, if they become, if they're guilty of it, what it says is they're guilty of putting men's lives at risk, and they're going to get a fine.
Yeah, exactly. That is what they're going to get, a fine.
No, throw them in jail. I mean, really, that's
I know.
In my mind.
I think there's an attitude change that we need in our society, and basically, corporations or people, people or corporations that cause death through bad design, etc., should face a potential for going to jail.
Yeah, well, corporations too. Like, for instance, corporations have all the rights of a human.
But corporations represented
when General Motors or Toyota or whatever else has a bad brake part, and 25 people get killed and many others get injured, not one person goes to jail. Yeah. Right? You cannot take General Motors and put them in jail. Whereas
but you could put the CEO in jail.
Something like that caused the death of 25 people, I would be thrown in prison.
Yeah, but you could put the CEO in jail.
No, they don't. They don't go to jail. None of them go to jail.
But that's what I mean. You could put the CEO in prison.
But they don't.
I know.
Because the CEO is protected because the CEO is not General Motors.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The building had no occupants as yet, but workers could have lost their lives. Yeah. So leaders do not vote to make themselves liable ever. Yeah, I know that. But I'm just saying it would take a sea change in law for that to happen. And we agree.
Yeah, that's to me, that's terrible. Having been on work sites, I've been residential construction, but mostly I've done industrial construction and does industrial work. And of course, working with engineers all the time, but more in engineers in flux, basically, because every different job I have is a different engineer. What you really don't need is an engineering screw up. There is enough inherent dangers all the time in that kind of work. There's cranes flying things over. There are things in the process. There's trucks galore out there. As I know, I mentioned this before. An old schoolmate of mine got run over by a front-end loader and died. And so there are enough dangers out there. My brother lost his fingers when a hoist failed, and all these kinds of things. There's just a number of things out there. I myself was in the hospital 5 different times in 25 years. So there are all kinds of things that are going to hurt you anyway. And you try to work as safe as you can. And then an engineer messes up, probably for the reasons of Expedia, and all he has to worry about is a fine. Now, if he killed somebody, if somebody died, maybe they have to go to jail. But what they got to do is throw them in jail now, so they get the idea. I better do my work a little bit better. But we have to find out if it was really these guys' fault. But they have.
Okay, Dave. 10 seconds comment on each of the following stories. Syrians searching for their dead loved ones after 50 years of Assad regime.
This is horrible. Look, we'll watch on TV the different reports. I knew Assad was a dictator, but I had no idea how brutal he was. This is terrible. This is analogous to people discovering the death camps in Europe. It is awful.
Yeah. Okay. Another one. A U.S. man freed by hammer-wielding men as rebels overthrow the Syrian regime. Interesting. This is a guy that for some time had been known to have been captured by the Syrian regime, known to have been, actually, I think had been missing for quite some while. They didn't exactly know what had happened to him. And now he's out and free. This is what you call a good news story, I guess.
Well, this guy was doing a pilgrimage. Basically, he went from Lebanon. He was going into Syria. Evidently, a religious fellow. The Assad government was, paranoid of everybody, so they grabbed him and threw him in jail. However, this guy was not treated like the other prisoners. The other prisoners were starved and beaten and burned. The kind of things they did to them is beyond talking about. Seriously, go on to BBC and look at some of the reports. It is unbelievable. People looking for the bodies and remains of their people. Thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So this guy got lucky in a way. He got captured just because of the suspicion of the Assad regime, but he didn't get treated that badly. He did get fed and watered. So but then when he got let out, he didn't know where to go. So
of course not. No. Well, he was probably confused. What the heck is going on? Some hammer wielding man lets me out. Unlocks my prison cell.
Yeah, and then the Syrians around, when he was wandering around the streets barefooted, the local Syrians took him in and treated him well and make sure he had the clothes and the food and a place to sleep and that kind of thing. So the Syrians themselves were the ones that were kind to him. And remember, of all these wars that are going on, we start to get the idea that everybody is violent and harsh. Remember, those are real people there.
Yeah.
That are so much more. Yeah.
And this is a hammer wielding rebel, right? Hammer wielding rebel. So we're talking about, you think Rebel's going to be coming there with a gun, wouldn't he? With a, AK-47 or something. No, he's wielding a hammer.
And wielding a hammer and smashing. Yeah, well, they liberated all the prisoners. That's one of the first things they did. Once the restrictions of the police state, the military state were over with, people went around and doing whatever they wanted to do. And the first thing they wanted to do is break open into all these prisons where there are. And there are so many others. There are people being held in holes and pits, and they're trying to find them. They're trying to find them. They're asking everybody, where is that hole and pit we know that somebody was in, but we don't know where it is. They've been breaking down walls. They've been digging up. But the big main prisons, the house of death, they called it, that is being liberated, but with shocking results. It is beyond me how they can get anyone to torture people like they did in there. They were animals. I can't really, they have to use psychopaths or something to do the things they were doing. I can't see how an ordinary person could do anything like that, even think of doing something like that.
Yeah, okay. Last two comments. Okay. Trudeau says Kamala Harris's election loss is a setback for women.
Well, he's a big nitwit. He's a big nitwit because and this is actually kind of an indication that he's going to step down, because he's saying things that would aggravate Trump, right? He has to remember who he's dealing with on the other side of the table now. And if he says, oh, well, Harris would have been a better choice than Trump, that's going to aggravate that guy. And we know what he's like.
And of course, what happens? Trump taunts Trudeau.
That's right. And the reason why Trump is cruel and taunts Trudeau now is because Trudeau talked behind his back and mocked him. When they were all together in Canada having a conference and with other leaders and so on, when Trump left, Trudeau and a few others were caught on an open mic mocking Trump after he had been smiling and shaking hands with the guy and being Mr. Buddy Buddy. He was caught on an open mic mocking him and making fun of him with other leaders. Trump never forgot that, and he's going to belittle Trudeau any way he can. Yeah, he doesn't forget.
No. All right, we're going to leave it there.
Okay.
I think.
Anyway, what are you? What does that mean?
What the fuck are you? Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Trudeau is a badass. He doesn't care. He has no heart, that man, says Betty.
Well, the Conservative spokesperson was Lanceman, and you could see her often sitting beside Poilievre. I've heard her speak, and she said something a whole lot different than Trudeau. Trudeau said you got to put a lot of women in a lot of places. You got to put them in government there and there. Whereas Lanceman's idea is you get there by merit. And that's the opening we find. Women are now allowed to go into those places by their own merit. And if you get there by your own merit, it's it's better for feminism. Whereas Trudeau is pretty much saying, just put them in. If you got a slot, push them in there. And we see what that happened with him with the Jody Rayball Wilson thing. Yeah. He put her into a spot, and then when she didn't agree with him, he tossed her out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and I think we can end it there, Dave.
Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace, everybody. Like, that Gaza thing is just insane. It's gone on this long, and I know Joe Biden's going to rot in hell for this.